Well, you call it 1 week, one declaration, but it looks like every day coming with new declarations ahead of the 2023 elections in Nigeria. With citizens discussing the issues of casting their ballots, parties deciding on their candidates among their plethora of hopefuls, the electoral bill and where Nigeria is headed with it, the developments have been endless. It's just been above a year to D-Day, and the intrigues, the jibes, the condemnations and commendations haven't stopped flowing. The election is in the air, and hopefully a greater Nigeria is in the making also. Welcome to VSA as we discuss developments in Nigeria ahead of the 2023 elections. I'm Sulaiman. Well, Nigeria has a history of conducting its politics by regions. It takes center stage in political discussions and is, above anything else, the driver of our electoral choices. A very diverse country with 3 major ethnicities, thousands of tribes and languages, and 6 geopolitical zones. Getting every group, every opinion, every suggestion of marginalization to be represented in Nigeria is a difficult adventure. Its recruitment of leaders leaves a lot to be savored. Political processes are not the smoothest, and the structures and processes that make these leaders, the choices Nigerians have to make, are not exactly the best. The electoral bill, expected to turn the polls around and make votes count the more, is still held in the whims of a presidential ascent. Aspirants and their desires haven't stopped trooping in, and the issues are hardly heard. There are no policy documents by aspirants. The aspirations are shrouded in party predicaments and the unpredictability of eventual choices. There are more than enough to discuss. I'm now joined today by my guest, Ezekiel Nya-Etok, who's the director, Nigeria First Project, and pretty much later, Ken Okolugbo, who is a former commissioner, Delta State, will join me. Good to see you, Ezekiel, and well, Happy New Year is in order.
I think so. It's been a while. I haven't seen you since last year, Lord. It's such a long time.
Absolutely. I'm excited seeing you. When my producer said she was bringing you on the show, I said, well, this is the time for us to actually, jump in on some of the key things you've been doing since Nigeria's democratic journey, 1999 till date. Now, we're just more than 365 days to the elections, and the electoral umpire in Nigeria, that's INEC, is yet to release the timetable because of the issues around, the bail, the amendment of that particular bill. Quite a lot for us to discuss on the show today. Now, let us in on what you think. Are Nigerians possibly getting cornered again by those, in government?
You have said it, and that's the fact. The sad fact, and one that we will never come to a point of accepting. Nigeria, a country so blessed. I've been around the world, and I say this time and time again. And I can hardly find any country, outside of probably a country like Israel, that boasts of the quality of human capital resource that we have in this country, or boast of the natural resources that we have, or even boast of other aspects of, the climate, all sorts of conditions. And yet we have become the poverty capital of the world. There must be something absolutely wrong, something that we must interrogate and take a very decisive decision on. I think as we continue, we'll be unpacking these issues.
All right, okay, then I think Ken Okolugbo is finally here. Ken, thank you for joining us, and thanks for your time, and Happy New Year again. And quickly, how exciting is this for you, another election year coming in Nigeria?
The funny thing is that this is one election that's a bit amazing we haven't had any front runners, unlike before now, who you say that has gone around the country consulting before coming out to make a declaration. We only had people who were being rumored to say, I'm running, I'm not running. And eventually, well, maybe when Bola Tinubu decided to say, look, I have thrown my hat into the ring, a whole lot of people now started coming up with the APC. And in the PDP, we haven't had any strong southern apart from Paisani, who is saying he wants to run. And the pendulum is shifting according to the ethnic lines, because people are looking at it that the North has done their 8 years, and it should be the South. So they expect the PDP and the APC to present candidates from the South. Already the Southern leaders and the Middle Belt leaders are already saying that if any party that doesn't get a candidate from the South will not get their votes. Well, how they can translate it into reality is another question for another day. So basically, I think that what we need to do is, as electorate, watch the unfolding drama until the Electoral Act is signed. Maybe that's when you will now have a candidate seriously going around the country and actually asking for the people's votes, whether direct or indirect primaries.
I'll come back to you, Ken. Let me go to Ezekiel. But it doesn't look that there's time. Is there? There are so many talks on social media about ending money politics in the system. And I recall years ago, Ezekiel, you had also spoken about that, how expensive it is to run in an election and what the electorates should be looking out for. Now, you've also witnessed many elections in Nigeria. How can this money politics be curbed? Can it ever be curbed?
I'll tell you two things. There is the narrative, and the narrative shapes the goings on, the practicals within the sphere. Now, let's start with the narratives. We need to drive the narrative that Nigeria is like a club that has been losing matches and they need to start to win. That should be the first narrative. Nigeria is like a football club. We've been losing matches. We are at the relegation zone. We are about to get down the class we were in. So the first question is, how do we stay afloat? That must be the first narrative. That first narrative will now drive the second conversation as to how do we recruit a coach? What sort of coach do we have? Do we have a football team that is doing very well and we need to maintain it? Do we have one that has aged population and we need to start bringing a new crop of players up? What is the narrative that will define the quality of coach that we need? Nigeria today is on the wrong end of the assessment on all indices, on the wrong end. So the first narrative for me is not where somebody comes from, whether he's from the north, from the south. That's not the first narrative. So that nobody has this monopoly of, it's me. Should be the first narrative should be, we need a first-class CEO for the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We go ahead to profile the sort of CEO that we need. When we have profiled that, we can now go into the next phase of, look at what's happened. Nigeria had a Nigerian by way of Eguavon, but we had to leave him and go all the way to, is it Portugal or something, to bring somebody in because we want to qualify for World Cup. So the narrative of where somebody comes from should not be the first narrative. It should be about the quality of CEO that we need today. But you see, politicians are very good at their spin. They are getting us to spin their narrative, which is forget about quality, which is what they've been giving us. They just let us have this narrative of north, south, east, west, APC, PDP, PDP, APC, and we just do that, and then time comes for you to throw up candidates, and they just bring up any candidate and impose it on us, and we don't have a choice because of how politics is. If you're not on the ballot, you cannot be voted for. But if the narrative has been driven along the lines of quality of leadership, then Nigerians couldn't care less whether it's a third force, whether it's a first force or a second force. Nigerians just want to know what quality of people are coming. If you look at it very well, for a while now, we've been driving narrative of Tinubu, how can I forget it? Oshibanjo.
Yes.
Which brings it to a Southwest narrative. Politicians are good, and we're just running after that. Nya-Etok does not run their narrative. I bring back my eyes on the ball, and my question is, for where we are today, who can take us out? Give me that person, and he has my vote, or she.
Well, I'm happy you've also put the gender, the female gender there, or she, because we've seen also some, women coming up to say they want to run, and run they will. It comes back to you, Ken. We have had this conversation before, and I also recall it was one of those big conversations we had last year, 2021, talking about, who should actually present himself or herself for that office. Now, listening to Ezekiel, does it also resonate with you that a time will come for Nigerians to start talking about the quality of those who will seek, elections, rather than talking about where they're from?
Oh yeah, what I was saying earlier was just an overview of what Nigerians are actually more like debating in terms of the issue of zoning. But to a lot of people, they have said that zoning actually promotes mediocrity. But I'm not talking about zoning here. For me, my perspective is a scorecard of the present government. Nigerians are not going to vote really for whoever comes from the south or whoever comes from the north. What Nigerians are going to be bothered about is the performance of the APC. The monetary policy of the government today, for example, gave us a situation whereby 30% is the liquidity ratio. They maintain a 27.5% the credit reserve ratio and 11.5% the interest rate. But what is the unemployment? The unemployment is 33%. What is inflation? 15.9%, let's say 16%. It's still not only double digits, but climbing up to almost 20%. This gives us one of the highest misery index you can find in the history of the country. So what the voters are going to be doing is to give a clear scorecard, carry out a referendum on what APC have done. And if you look at what my other colleagues said, it's a two-party system. We have to face reality. It's either the APC or the PDP that will produce the next president of this country. Any other person that is trying to run, with due apologies, is just more like a joker at this point, because you must have the structures in the 774 local governments of Nigeria. You must be able to galvanize those votes, and you must be able to police those votes with your agents. How many of them can even pay agents in a quarter of the states, talk less of the 36 states? It is only the two parties, APC and PDP, that can pay the agents. And that is a sad situation we have found ourselves in this country, and that's the reality of the situation. We are not yet ready to raise the bar. The highest voting population you can find are the youths. But those same youths are the ones that you find on election day, helping to rig elections for the two main parties. And it's only APGA that has been striking in Anambra, other than the APC and the PDP. There's no other party that is controlling any state in the 36 states of the federation. So sometimes the truth is bitter, but we have to say it. As much as we want other players to come in, like you said, some of the women are declaring their ambitions and they want to show that they're ready to give the men the fight. But Nigeria is not yet right, because not even in any of the political parties, the APC or the PDP, have I heard of a woman, making herself available to be elected as the president of this country. So Sulaiman Aledeh, at this point, we need to do a soul searching. What do we want? Do we want quality, or do we want to just have somebody from the south for the sake of, satisfying the ethnic theory of north-south dichotomy?
Ken, I'll come back to you. Let me run to Ezekiel. Ezekiel, you've heard him. A while ago, I caught you, in showing some indignation, listening to what Ken is saying. But as he rightly puts it, he used the word, he said, well, it's the sad reality. So you also mentioned the third force. Once upon a time, Nigerian politicians tried as much as possible to see if they can actually upset the apple cart. Can that ever happen?
It can very, very so easily happen. Let me give you a very simple scenario. And I want to be as practical as possible, so I'm going to go into calling 1, 2 names. Imagine a situation where a man like Alhaji Kwankwaso that everybody gives to that he has the North in his kitty. Imagine a man like Alhaji Kwankwaso going into another party. No matter how you look at it, that party becomes a force from day one. Imagine a second situation where a man like Ahmed Bola Tinubu is disenfranchised in APC, and he decides to move over to join forces with Alhaji Kwankwaso. And then some governors in APC and PDP, because of how completely disorganized the two major parties are, today there is no guarantee that APC will be able to hold a national convention come the 26th of February. Today, it is very sure that only one chairman's list can be accepted in the national convention, and that in a state like Akwa Ibom State, we have 3 chairmen already. Only one list will be accepted. Assuming the other 2 get so disenfranchised, they join the third force. From day one, that third force becomes bigger than APC and bigger than PDP. There's nothing like APC, there's nothing like PDP. They are human beings. Okay, today you say Akwa Ibom State was a PDP state. Then all of a sudden, a man like Godswill Akpabio leaves. He carries PDP that he had along with him. And then 1, 2 other people move. A third force, don't let anybody, for him to say that dismiss a third force with a wave of the hand and call it a joke, I think it's very, very uncharitable, and it's not politically sound, because parties are people. And when you say third force, another good example I want to give you is a man called Dr. Olusegun Mimiko. There was no party like Labour Party, none at all, that was there in Ogun State, in Ondo State. And then this man, about 3 months to primaries, he moves, not a year that we have so much time, he moves into Labour Party. All of a sudden, a non-existent party became the dominant party, and they won the election by over 60%. You know, so dismissing a third force because there's no structure, because there are no people, it means that you don't really see the fact that party is people, structure is people. And finally, along that line, for us to come to a point of saying that Nigerians are so dumb that no matter what APC and PDP throw on them, we don't have a choice, we must go with them. No, brother, it's a narrative I will never in my life accept. A third force is possible, and I dare say that something is in the offing for that.
Well, let me bring in Ken again. Perhaps, Ken, is there any likelihood that Nigeria is about to see what brought about the APC? Recall the games, the infighting in the PDP that saw some, great politicians make that audacious move to join a part of the CPC, the Congress for, Progressive Change, and another arm of the ACN to form the party that is in government today. So Ken, help us here, because you're also a politician, and you were very much in the thick of things when that occurred in Nigeria. Is it possible that Nigeria will see a repeat of that?
Oh, yes. I was a member of the Presidential Campaign Council. The truth about it is that the other guest is he's being emotional and more like being sentimental about the reality of what Nigeria is saying today. It's a sad reality. When I say it's a sad reality, you should have understood that. I stand with the fact that this kind of change should be encouraged. But in this present time, it is just like living in a fool's paradise to start thinking that any other party is going to win elections in 2023. For you to have a third force, for example, you must have been able to build the structures over 4 years. Nothing like jumping from one party. Olusegun Mimiko that he used as an example, he didn't even leave the Labour Party in 3 months. Olusegun Mimiko wanted to use what do they call this party? The Accord Party, before he eventually used the Labour Party. He left once he saw that the handwriting was on the wall that Obasanjo didn't favor him to get the ticket. I remember that very clearly because I also ran on that Accord then before I joined the PDP. And by the time he got into the Labour Party, he still knew that he wasn't going to be able to get a second tenure without joining a big party because he came through the courts, if you remember very well. I don't want to go into the details of what the court case was like, but he might not know some of these details that we know. That is just the truth. He came through the courts. He didn't win that election on ground. And he had to join the PDP, if you remember very well, to get a second term in office. And when he even tried to contest under the Zenith Labour Party, he lost for a senatorial seat. So these are facts that are sacred. No tech force can exist now. You see, when Buhari wanted to become the president, he tried about 3 times until he decided to join Amebola Tinubu and the ANPP. And he says it himself, he knew he couldn't win that election with the CPC. Buhari had the cult followership in the north. We all knew that. And so having the APC scenario would not happen right now because the party that is going to be more in disarray is the APC. For example, the PDP has had its convention, they've had a chairman. Yes, there are issues also with the PDP, but certainly the party that looks like it's going to implode is the APC. And when it implodes, what time do they have? If they sign Electoral Act, Sulaiman Aledeh, it tells you that primaries must hold before August 18th. The National Assembly election is February 18th, so it's going to hold 6 months to the election. And I will tell you authoritatively that APC and PDP will wait like 4 days or 5 days to 18th of August to carry out their own primaries, so nobody can decamp from one party to the other. And that's exactly what happens. It's a game. Politics is a game. We must realize that it's a game and face that reality, just like it happens in America. It's either you are a Democrat or you're a Republican. And so today and tomorrow, it is the APC or the PDP that will produce the next president of Nigeria. Most likely to be the PDP. I'm trying to be very neutral here because I see the APC imploding.
So quickly, let me stay with you for a bit, Ken, before I go to Ezekiel. You say you see the APC imploding, and you've also, cleverly been able to, run away from some of the key things I asked, because it looks like, well, there's trouble in your party, the PDP. There's also trouble in the APC. But you've chosen to see through your political crystal ball the implosion in the APC and not in the PDP. Tell us what you've been able to see. What are those key things? What are the dynamics, political dynamics that you've seen in the APC that makes you think that there's likely to be an implosion?
Was I likely going to see another APC emerge in terms of the third force? And so I gave you the analogy and also used Buhari as an example that you will not see that situation anymore. Because first of all, you don't have somebody like Buhari who commands the kind of cult followership that he had in the north. He was always coming with almost 6 to 10 million votes in every elections from the north. And so he needed the Bola Tinubu connection, the connect of Bola Tinubu and the people who left the PDP to be able to emerge. So I actually answered that question just as I think I did a bit of politics. But it wasn't politics per se, because if you look at the APC right now, Buni has a lot of people who are opposing him. Bello is the only one that has indicated interest from the North Central. In Akwa, there are 3 chairmen. In Delta, the APC there is divided. It's only being controlled by the Deputy Senate President. The other APC members like Texas Kemo and who are complaining. In Enugu, is the same thing. If you go to Edo, it's only Edo that seems to have a bit of peace now because the Shomole seems to be the only one left now that Obaseki has gone. All over in the other states of the Southwest, in Ogun State, the people are most doesn't see eye to eye with Dakpabiodu, the governor. Even in Lagos State, Lagos movement, Jador has left. Where am I going to start from? The people who are opposed to Bola Tinubu are the same people who benefited from Bola Tinubu's political family to get to the presidency. And they are hell-bent on stopping Bola Tinubu. It's any other person but Bola Tinubu. Oshibajo is being drafted into the race, who is seen as a member of the Bola Tinubu political family. And you can see even Fayemi too is a member of the Bola Tinubu political family, is also going going to most likely contest. So if you see what is happening in the APC, they are beds of different fellows. They cannot conglomerate together anymore. Except a miracle happens, APC's primary will cause an implosion of the party. And even the president warned them, he told them clearly that if they do not put their house in order, there will be an implosion. It wasn't just me saying it, that the PDP was going to win the election. And so that's exactly what the APC will have to do. They have to put their house in order. They have to drop their interest.
Let me bring in Ezekiel here before we go on the break. Ezekiel, it now looks like what you highlighted earlier on. If that is, and we see a semblance of that in the two dominant party, how can this, metamorphose into that, force that Nigerians may latch onto to get, newbies on the political landscape?
I'll tell you this. My brother Ken is a very good party man, and I give him credit. In politics, you spin to your area. That's the way it is. But Ken has to know that when you come to a place like Akwa Ibom State, where I'm there, and you talk of PDP, have discussion with the people there, and they will tell you that what is happening is still in the gym doing press up. You understand me? Almost all across the country, every party, PDP, APC, they are split. And gone were the days when in a state, the governor was the alpha and omega. There are several states where individuals, 1-2, can hold the party just like the governor. And it's happening. So the question is, let's replay 2015. What do we have? We had a man from the north called my governor, Buhari, okay? Then we had a man from the southwest called Tinubu. Today, what do we have? We have a man in the north called Alhaji Kwankwaso that is in the PDP as of today. But what is the PDP doing? Are they going to him? Are they playing the normal game that 60 years we're in power, nobody can touch us? 4-5 governors walk away, though it doesn't matter. It's that same arrogance they are still playing today. And no matter how much you love him, hate him, Alhaji Kwankwaso is a force in the north. You now go to the APC. Ahmed Bola Tinubu is a force, no matter how you look at it. And assuming these two people are disenfranchised from their parties, and they decide to come together in any form of alliance, and then they are able to spin a narrative that catches the attention, the focus, and of course, the buy-in of the young people. And somebody is telling me that such an amalgam, such a body will be inconsequential. Brother, haba. PDP is not together. APC is not together. We know that. And they are all yoked in this cloak of people that have brought us to where we are today. So anybody that is able to spin a counter narrative and then be able to give Nigerians something they could believe in. And sir, I am one of the closest friends of Dr. Mimiko, one of the closest throughout that period. I'm saying this on a live broadcast, he's hearing and everybody's hearing. I can tell you about what happened. The discussions he had with Baba before he left the cabinet, I was with him. And I learned and studied from him what the people power is. So he won from the court. He didn't just win he didn't buy it from the court. The court looked at what was on ground and they made a pronouncement. But that said, I want Nigerians to reject any, instead of being emotional and sentimental. Brother, your country has become the poverty capital of the world. How can you smile?
I see where you're coming from, Ezekiel. We'll take a moment. We'll come back. We'll talk more about candidates, Ken and Ezekiel. And Ezekiel has just talked about the Kwankwasia movement, and he's also looking at every likelihood should Bola Ahmed Tinubu be pushed out of the APC and he forms an alliance with a very strong force similar to the Kwankwasia movement. Maybe that should or could be the third force. When we return, we'll talk about the candidates. Join us again. Well, in a harmonized bill passed by the National Assembly, well, the modes of primary elections according to Clause 84 of the Electoral Act also includes consensus. That has just been done today in Nigeria. Others, as previously revealed, are the direct and indirect modes of primary elections. Now, this is coming after President Buhari declined assent to the previous bill passed by the National Assembly, citing reasons such as the choice of primary elections. Another development in the bill also sees Section 315 of the Electoral Act being amended. Previously, the bill stated that any Nigerian who finds discrepancies in the information provided by a candidate can file a suit at the Federal High Court. A review of that section of the Act now confers that responsibility only on aspirants who contested for offices during primary elections. Now, this is seen by Nigerians as an attempt to limit Nigerians' desire to ask questions of political candidates. I still have with me Ezekiel Nya-Etok and Ken Okolugbo to make sense of what is happening as Nigerians move towards 2023 election. It's going to be a weekly talk till that and after that election here on News Central. Quickly here, I'm back to you, Ken. Listening, I didn't allow you to react to some of those, key things before we start talking about candidates. I knew you were about to say something before we went on the break. Now, you've heard what Ezekiel has highlighted, and there's a semblance of what transpired in 2014 leading up to the 2015 elections, which ultimately gave birth to the APC. So what do you have to say to the new developments, especially in the Clause 84, which adds consensus elections as a mode of primary election, and Section 315, which stops just anyone from questioning the information provided by a candidate? Does this look like some of the key things that may upset the apple cart?
Oh yes. Before I go into the clause you said, I'm a realist. I like to always speak with facts. The fact that he says the two parties are in turmoil, he didn't give any example for the PDP. I'm not just trying to be a party man here. If the parties in turmoil, let me say, Akweban PDP, I don't see them having two chairmen. And you should remember that even someone like Akpabio lost the senatorial election. This is the same Akpabio that brought Utom Emmanuel to become his SSG until he became the governor. And so the truth about it is that when you have structures in place, it is almost impossible for you to root out a party. Structures are everything we talk about. You might just be the governor, but you might not have the structures. There I agree with him that not every time will the governor come and say, because he's the governor, I must win elections. But the reality of the situation right now is that the only person that is complaining in the PDP is Uche Secondus. I don't know of any other person that is complaining right now. In Delta, for example, I'm running for the House of Rep. We are all one family in Delta State PDP. We don't have anybody that is in court challenging the structures. Where these things happen is when primaries are done and people are dissatisfied. Maybe that's what you should be saying, that we should wait until when primaries are done and we'll see an implosion also in the PDP. There I can agree, if there are maneuvers. But as it stands right now, the PDP is not there. Even a number that was divided has come together as per the PDP. And he keeps talking about Kwakwan, so let me quickly go into that. With due respect to the Kwakwansia movement, it's not the same as it used to be. If you remember, we lost woefully in the presidential election in 2019 in Kano, despite the fact that we had a mammoth crowd. We were wondering what could have happened. Why could this mammoth crowd not have translated into victory? The Kwakwansu betray us. But 2 weeks after, from the less than 300,000 votes that people got, which was very embarrassing, or 400,000 votes, we got about 1 million and something votes, but we still couldn't win the governorship election. That's a sad reality. Kanduje won. So if Kwakwansu couldn't deliver his states to PDP in gubernatorial, let me even leave the presidential, because it was.
Ken, so allow me butt in here quickly here. Is it also safe to say that was because of the Buhari factor? Keep in mind, President Buhari will not be on the ballot in the coming elections that Nya-Etok is talking about.
President Buhari will not be in the ballot, but Kwakwansu has not been able to up his game in my own assessment. I'm somebody that has always believed in Kwakwansu before now. Remember, he beat Atiku in APC.
This is your party member you want to disqualify.
Presidential primary. But when he ran in a presidential primaries, he didn't come third. So I'm just trying to say that he's
Well, I think, that's a glitch to that connection to Ken. I hope...
there had to be. Even the network had to.
I hope we get Ken back. But you were saying something, Ezekiel.
Yes, yeah, two things. Let me tell you something. You know, PDP, sometimes their strategy I don't understand. Number one, this is your own member who is still in your party, and you are coming to discountenance him. Haba. Number two, when this man was in PDP,
I'm only telling you that let me just alone. That's what I'm saying. I'm not discounting us. I'm not running him down. You're saying he can stand alone. How can he stand alone? It's not possible. Even he will tell you that he cannot stand. He cannot be a third force. Even the Tinubu you're talking about has so much opposition in the Southwest right now. Tinubu is not the same as he was in the Southwest. He needs a political party with structures to be able to get there. Tinubu cannot even stand alone in the Southwest. Can Tinubu deliver the 6 states of Southwest alone without a structured party?
Now let me jump in here, gentlemen, quickly here. Let me jump in here. Now that we're talking about candidates, Ken has already opened the vistas. Let's hear from Ezekiel now. Ken has already, mentioned some key, points about these aspirants. They're not candidates yet. And he's also mentioned that of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Speak to us about some of the aspirations of these people. How powerful or otherwise are their aspirations towards that office?
Yes, I'll tell you this. The very first thing is that I will never in my entire life accept the status quo. I'll never do that. What is not good enough is not good enough. And what has brought us to become the poverty capital of the world has to be discountenanced, has to be rejected. A man like this Egwavon, just for losing a match, which Nigerians can understand how it happened, he stepped down honorably because he had a target. And then you're giving, come down to where we are today. There's a man that is King Limalu. No matter how you want to look at it, he comes with a refreshing perspective as to how to fix Nigeria. I've also been privileged to have a young man like Chukwuka Monye, who just declared, and I sat down and listened to him. I could see a burning passion of somebody who has taken a business from zero level to something that is in several countries at a young age based on certain sound fundamentals and principles. I've also been able to look at a man like Adewale, okay? He is also the owner of Kaftan TV. He's also a private person who's been able to build an empire. And I listened to him talk about Nigeria and what he can do about Nigeria. I've sat down and listened to so many people. I can give you all the names. That is how I came across Alhaji Kwankwaso. And I sat, in fact, my first meeting with him was supposed to be my last. Because I told him, a man like you, that is a man who brought up his bar, how can you want to be the president of Nigeria at a time like this? And when he sat down and sent me through what he did, we became best of friends. And then above all, when he sat down and told me about his passion for education, he bought me over. And I want to see a man like that having a debate, okay? Now, if a man like Ahmed Bola Tinubu comes into the frame, and I'm asking 1, 2, 3 things that make me a little bit uncomfortable. The first is that I think his age is not so much on his side. And there was this issue about how frail his health. I want to be as down to earth as possible, okay? So I'm asking, what sort of energy will we have for a Nigeria in crisis to sit on top of it, read files, get to do all the documents that come in and be able to take informed decision to run a country? I'm a private sector person. I've never held any public office. I've always, and God has made me successful by his grace because I understand the fundamentals of running a successful business. So the issue is, I am challenged to see how these people will be able to run and have the energy and passion. Then I've been able to see other people and I ask, where are the Adesinus of this world? Where are the Okonjo-Iwealas of this world? These are the people that can sit down and talk about growing an economy and not politics. It has structures. For goodness sake, no matter how rich you are, If you are not a trained driver, you crash the bus and everybody inside will die. These guys are amazing politicians. They have amassed stupendous wealth. They have structures all over the country. We need their structures. But can they just step back and become like the fathers of the nation? Avail the younger people of these structures, even the older ones. If anybody that's below, like above 67, should just start to think in terms of retiring and cooling down. You know, if you are less than that, you can still say you are giving the last breath of your energy.
Let me bring in Ken here. So, sorry to cut you again. Let me bring in Ken. I think listening to Ezekiel, Ken, let's start talking about some of the candidates that have shown interest in your party. Atiku Abubakar is one, and some Nigerians have started asking questions. Well, this may sound personal, but it is what it is, Ken. You're not 50 yet, you're close to 50, but you've been in politics at a very young age. And Nigerians are saying, why not Ken Okolugbo? Why not people like the Monyas that Ezekiel has just mentioned? Who are those young faces or names in the PDP that you think should also compete or run in this election? Ken.
Okay, let me quickly answer the first question you gave me. Section 84 of the Electoral Act. In PDP, we don't have consensus in our constitution. So even though it has been amended, we will still have to go with our constitution. Our constitution, it says either you can go for indirect consensus or direct. So we'll go with what is in our constitution. Our constitution is very clear. Our primaries have to be indirect. We don't even have a provision for direct primaries in the PDP. So I just wanted to correct that each party will be able to apply the amendment according to their own constitution. Maybe that's exactly what the president meant. And first time I agree with Buhari solely in saying we should have a choice and let it be more democratic in terms of primaries. Then on that section 315, I think it is rather unfortunate that people will not question the credentials or the eligibility of an aspirant to turn a candidate, and it is only those who participate in the election that can question it. Yes, what if those who participate in the election choose to turn the other eye and collect money and say, no, I will not, I can refund the expenses. And then you now present somebody who now will go all the way to become either a governor, a deputy governor, a president, or even a legislature with a questionable credential. So I think that is totally wrong in my own perspective. Now, going into the issue of candidates, we must also face realities. Those candidates he talked about, now he has said it all that Kwankwaso is his personal friend. Now I understand why he has selling Kwankwaso. But the thing about it is that we're looking at my party, quite all right. The Moyes, the Moalus we're talking about, they can never become the president of Nigeria until they come into the major political party and play.
Did you just say they can never, or they will not?
As at 2023, they cannot. Look, why is he not trying to face reality? There are only two parties here. It's like America gives a chance for independent candidacy. Yeah, the independent candidate cannot.
Ken, I'll let you land. I want to throw this in. This is getting exciting. Recall once upon a time, it was just a party. And PDP said, that's your party, it was going to rule Nigeria for 50 unbroken years.
We took another party to come together. It took a coalition. Don't you understand where I'm coming from, Sulaiman Aledeh? Why are we trying not to face reality? Who doesn't believe in the youth? Okay, let me give you an example. Ken is going to be 50 this year. I can't even become the governor of my state until I'm 67.
What?
Will I be able to run for governor of my state when I'm 67? Because now they say it's the turn of the central. The central will rule for 8 years. It will go back to the south. And I'm from Delta North. So 16 years from 2023 is only when I'll be eligible again to run. That's a sad reality. So even if I wanted to become governor of Delta State, it's until I'm 67 years I can run for governor of Delta State. Is that supposed to be right? And you think I'm happy with that? You think I don't like to be governor of my state? You think I don't want to be president of this country? And they will tell you they're zoning it. And you see, somebody like Jonathan was endangered. If Jonathan did not become president by a share of Dean's Lodge because he was vice president, a Jonathan from Bielsa that has just 500,000 votes will never have been president. I'm just trying to face the reality of the fact, and that is why we must have more like a revolution in the party structures. The youth must take the bull by the horn. If the youth decide to all register and say, look, we're going to become the youth who are deciding that we must have a change. Now, ask yourself, in Lagos State, for example, the over about 1 million to 1 point something million votes at the end of the day. Yet we have about 6 million people registered as voters in Lagos. Can't do the same thing. They'll tell you it's about 1.9 million people that voted. Another will tell you that it's only 200,000 that came out of about 3 million voters. Are you seeing the statistics I'm giving? So there's a moral rearmament and there's an awakening and there's a social revolution. And these people that are on social media they should throw their hats into the ring by going around to make sure that people register and carry out a movement like Obama.
But quickly here, we're closing before I go to Ezekiel. We're rounding off. How can that, moral, what did you call it? Yes. How can that or the revolution ever be if a young Nigerian is speaking the way you're saying things, saying that look, kill it, bury it. For 2023, these set of young Nigerians can never, let me land, can never become president. How encouraging or discouraging can that be to any Nigerian watching you at the moment, Ken?
No, what I can tell the young Nigerians is that from 2023, they should start what I am saying. They should start this revolution. They should start this movement from state to state, just like the way the NSAS riots. I'm not saying they should go riot, but just like the way it went with that fever pitch, they should be able to carry out that reawakening. People should register themselves and register a new political party. Now, the voting age is from 18 years, and between 18 and 50 is when you have most Nigerians that will go to the polls. Let them come out en masse. It can still happen in 2023. But what I don't see it happening is that the two political parties will emasculate the primaries to bring out, prop up these old men you're talking about.
Let me bring Ezekiel to close the show for us. But I'm really out of time. I would have loved to stay on this with you, but trust me, we'll have this conversation again here on the show, Ken. So Ezekiel, I want you to react to that because Ken is saying that he's a realist. He's painted a picture that makes it look, real, that this is what it is.
I look forward to it. Yes. When you're a realist and it goes above your reality and you call it circumstance, you're not a realist. You move with the circumstance as it is. Number one, I want to say that him to think that he will not be a governor until 16 years is for him to his party. That's number one. And that elections, what we had is a situation where they go to do, the coalition where they now do a kind of, allocation of votes. But transmission of result from the polling booth, I want to tell you that from the day Mr. President signs that bill into an act, there's going to be a certain political ginger that is going to change a lot.
Well, it's not. It looks like. Now I think this. I remember when Ken went off and Ezekiel chuckled on that network that Ken should have. Yes, truly. But now it's on you now, Ezekiel. But again, I hope
it can't be on me because I'm hearing you loud and clear.
You're back. Can we do this quickly? Let's Let's anchor this. Is that
as soon as Mr. President signs and the houses have harmonized, and once he signs it, there's going to be a new ginger, because in the past, we never had votes that count. They just have allocation of votes at the coalition center. So now that we know that there's going to be direct transmission of results, everybody's going to be gingered and people are going to come out to vote. Number two, the big two parties are going to get as arrogant as they have always been and bring out their own people wanting to impose them on us. And then the third force is going to bring out somebody that resonates with the youth, resonates with the situation we are in, and Nigerians, knowing that their vote will count, are going to move in their number.
Well, I think it's a fine place. Sorry, just allow me to jump in here. It's a fine place for us to anchor this, this moment. And I'm happy that you both have actually, unpacked it all for us here. On Village Square Africa, we'll stay on the issues. that matter ahead of the 2023 elections. And I'm happy also to learn that Ken is running for Nigeria's legislative, in the Nigerian legislative election. So we'd love to see more of you, Ken. And again, it's also good to know that Ken turns 50 this year. Congratulations and happy birthday. We want to see you go beyond that. Thanks for coming, Ezekiel Nya-Etok and Ken Okolugbo. Always a delight to have you both on the show. I'm Sulaiman. See you again. Bye-bye.